Jenny, can you do a roll call, please?
Supervisor Johnson?
Present.
Supervisor Angus? Supervisor Angus? Supervisor Gould?
Present.
And Supervisor Watson is not present today. We do have Manager Hendricks with us and Attorney Espin. So we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. This is April the 17th. Call this meeting to order. The Board of Supervisors may by motion recess into executive session to receive legal advice from the board's attorneys on any item contained within this agenda pursuant to ARS 38431. So the official business to come before the board this morning or this afternoon is a discussion of possible action, an update from the County Public Health Director of the Board of Supervisors regarding recent issues, actions, events, and county responses regarding COVID-19 updates, and take any necessary actions based on these updates. Good morning, Denise.
Are we in morning?
I guess it's afternoon, but it sure feels like morning.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Bishop, members of the board. I just wanted to give you a brief update, if I could, on where we're at with our COVID-19 planning and activities. As you know, you received the hospital status report, which shows that we are still in a good position to address any kind of surge. And that is a very positive thing for our community in the event we do have that happen. Our PPE so far is well and good. We are receiving that shipment sometime between today and next week of those 500,000 masks, of which 400,000 of those will go out to local hospitals, and then we will use that additional 100,000 to during our resource requests with different agencies throughout our county.
Good news.
Yes, yeah, looking forward to that. Wanted to update you also on the meeting schedule. The 1 o'clock meetings that we have are moving to Mondays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock. And so that will start on Monday, April 20th, so that you're aware of that change.
Okay.
The availability of test kits will be another thing that we discuss at our 1 o'clock meeting, in that, and these are actual COVID-19 test kits, not antibody test kits. We do have a state representative who has been able to secure some additional resources there. As I understand it, that person has been in touch with our local hospitals to get an understanding of what their interest is, as well as whether or not they plan to pursue test kits, additional test kits. And we will be reaching out to the smaller providers and smaller clinics to assess their interest in additional test kits. And then we will report that back to Representative Biasucci, and then
Haley Angus has joined the conference.
We understand that he'll actually make that connection for those providers to the U of A who will have those test kits available.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly. I didn't have anything particular to add to my update, but I wanted to certainly make myself available for questions. And then I also have Lynn Valentine, who is our nursing division manager, available for questions as well.
Okay. So I wanted to discuss our meetings, since you're moving the meetings with the first responders and the hospitals to twice a week. Is there any discussion on the Board of Supervisors also moving our meetings to Mondays and Thursdays, and maybe at 12 o'clock rather than 12:30? Supervisor Angus? Okay, Supervisor Johnson, go ahead.
I think that was Supervisor Gould.
Okay, it's hard to tell. Supervisor Gould.
Madam Chairman, I'm willing to put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, can you, on your motion, I think this coming Monday would have to keep it at 12:30, but we could start that the following week. Is that right, Jenny?
Chairman Bishop, that's correct. Because of the posting requirement, we would be past that time today. However, the Thursday meeting, we could start the noon time frame.
Let me try to do that. Madam Chairman, I move that we reschedule our updates with the Public Health Department to twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays. And on Thursday, the 23rd, change the time to noon.
Very good. I'll second that motion. Well, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Supervisor Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no problem going to twice a week, but if we can review it, because I think the board gets a lot of questions as the county is in charge, and I prefer to ask my questions to Denise with the other board members present so that we get all of our answers the same.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. Okay, any further discussion before I call for the vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Okay, carry on, Denise.
Okay. I don't really have any other updates at this point, honestly. I did release some information to Roger Galloway, our communications director, that will be released out to the public. These are, many of which are their commonly asked questions, and we thought it would be helpful, especially as it relates to some of the antibody testing that is now being reported out in the community. I don't know if you happen to see the 250,000 antibody tests that are going to be provided by the U of A out to healthcare workers specifically and first responders. But I wanted people to be aware also that the U of A has not released any additional information about how those kits will be distributed, when they'll be distributed, or the number that will be distributed to each county. So as we learn more about that, we will certainly share that information with the board and the public.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, does anyone have any questions for Denise?
I had some questions, Madam Chair.
All righty, go ahead.
I guess my first question would be with the protected devices that are coming in, the 500,000 and the 100,000 that Mojave County gets. Obviously, we want to keep our first responders and everybody equipped with these. Is there going to be devices that will be provided to Mojave County employees?
Those resources are certainly available to Mojave County as they're being purchased by us. So if there is a need for our county employees to have personal protective equipment and we can help provide that, then we will certainly do so.
Okay. Also, with the testing, do we have enough testing kits available at the hospitals? A lot of people are worried that hospitals are not testing as much as they should, but just sending people home to be quarantined that might have it.
Certainly. As I understand it, there is testing going on out in the community, and we have not heard from any hospitals that they've had a shortage, and they are following the criteria that's been developed by the Arizona Department of Health Services and the state lab. A lot of the tests are really just coming back negative. And so we're fortunate in that respect. And so we'll continue to look to see if we can expand testing to maybe some of these private providers, and that may open up opportunities as well to see if, especially for surveillance purposes, for us to be able to see out in the community a greater number of people being tested to understand whether or not there's spread in our community and what that really looks like.
Okay. Are you considering possibly recommending to the board, who doesn't have the authority, but coming from you, they might have the authority to possibly go to an all-mail election? You know, we could do one that possibly had the polls still open, but only for people who are worried about their ballots not being counted to drop off their ballots at our location?
Sure. You know, actually, I had not thought about that question, and I'd need to consider what time frame that election will be conducted and how far out that is, and projecting where we will be as a county as far as our cases and COVID-19 responses at that point.
Chairman.
Okay, because I know we're getting close to the deadline to do that for the election department. It was just things that have been brought up to me. Also, have you, I guess in your opinion, what does the reopening of Mojave County look like? Obviously, we have to go by the president's recommendations and the governor's recommendations.
Okay, Mr. Esplin, did you want to chime in?
Well, is there another question there? Because I can answer the election question, but I think he has another question. Let's answer that one first.
Okay.
Sorry, could you repeat your question, Supervisor Johnson? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay. In your opinion, what does the reopening of Mojave County look like as pertains to the president's recommendations and then the governor's?
Oh, that's another very good question.
You mean as far as opening businesses back up?
Right. Is that your...
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I look at our case numbers and look where we're at, and going back to our conversation before, maybe it was early last week, about where we are in relation to Maricopa County, and just trying to get a sense of where we are on that curve. And our data would suggest we're somewhere around a week to 10 days off of Maricopa's mark, and Maricopa was set to peak starting, I believe, yesterday in their original models. I don't know if that's been modified. So you would push us out another 10 days or so before we would begin to see our peak if that model projects to Mojave County also.
Okay, and then we'd probably be, if everything was ideal, 14 days after that?
Correct.
Okay.
So we'll learn a lot in the next 10 to 14 days at this point.
All right, I'll let, if somebody else has a question, I don't want to dominate.
Okay, Mr. Esplin, did you want to go over the election question?
Supervisor Johnson, I may be able to answer your question on that. So by law, the only elections that can be all mail ballot elections are cities, towns, and special districts. There's nothing in the law that allows for the county elections or the statewide elections or the presidential elections to be an all-mail election ballot or an all-mail ballot election. The only way that would change would have to be a legislative change. The legislature would have to change it to allow for an all-mail ballot election for this upcoming 2020 season. The way that, as you know, on the ballot we have for this year, it'll be a presidential election as well as a statewide election as well as a county election, and then there'll also be city and special district elections all on one ballot. So in order for that to change, that will have to come from the legislature. It's nothing that that Denise could do or that this board could do or that any county could do for that matter. So that's one thing. The other part to that, though, is that people can sign up for early voting. If they sign up for early voting and get on the permanent early voting list, then they could submit their ballot by mail. So you may see an increase in that. That may occur where more and more people will choose to vote by mail in this election, but they would have to take the steps to affirmatively sign up for the early voting, to sign up for early voting to do that. But otherwise, the legislature has to make that change.
All right. I also hear that our election director might be bringing an item before the board to fund getting more information out on, asking people to vote early, because I know a lot of people are afraid to go to the polls. Thank you, Mr. Esplin.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and you're correct. I think that he intends to do that as well. And one other thing I want to add to that is that, I talked with the elections director yesterday, and they're already making arrangements to ensure that, the safety of the public and the safety of the poll workers and the safety of their staff for the upcoming election for the primary and then the general election in November. So they're certainly doing that, and I think they also intend to ask for more funding for advertising, just like you said. Thank you, Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Denise? Supervisor Gold, do you have anything?
Only that I might have a question next week, which is similar to Supervisor Johnson's question regarding 12 days of 14 days of declining positive testing and how that would actually work out. The president mentioned that yesterday in his press conference about opening the states back up.
Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Angus, do you have anything?
I just want a clarification. We're talking about the primary election in August. Is that correct? In August?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, then, I think we can adjourn. Denise, did you have anything to add?
No, I'll just be available. If you have any individual questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, we are adjourned.